When you truly want to understand who someone is at their core, the first place to look is in the moments where they believe no one important is watching. Not when they're speaking to someone who can elevate them, praise them, or offer them opportunities, but when they interact with those who have no power over their lives at all. This is where the subtle truth hides. Human beings are social creatures, and because of that, most of us have learned how to perform. We create versions of ourselves for different environments, adjusting tone, posture, and language depending on who's in the room. But performance takes effort, and people rarely waste effort on those they consider irrelevant. That's why character is clearest when a person thinks the interaction won't matter. There's a psychological principle that says the way you treat those with no leverage over you is a direct reflection of your internal value system. Someone who carries humility within them will express respect naturally, not selectively. They don't reserve kindness only for those who are useful. It emerges in the same way breathing does, effortlessly, consistently, and without conditions. On the other hand, someone whose ego is driving the show often exposes themselves in these small, seemingly insignificant moments. A dismissive glance, impatience with someone who's slow, an unnecessary tone of superiority, these micro behaviors are windows into deeper layers of entitlement or insecurity. Think about how many times you've seen someone shift as soon as they realize a person isn't in a position of influence. The friendliness evaporates, the posture changes, the smile fades. It's almost as if they believe the interaction loses value the moment they lose a potential advantage. And that right there is the revelation. Because character is not about how you behave when doing so benefits you. Anyone can be charming when charm is profitable. Character is about what remains when all incentives are removed. There is also a moral dimension to this. Every human being you encounter is carrying the weight of their own unseen life, their struggles, their history, their battles, their insecurities. And when you respect someone who can't offer you anything in return, you're not validating their status. You're recognizing their humanity. This kind of recognition requires emotional depth. It requires empathy that is not transactional. It requires a steady sense of self, one that doesn't rely on hierarchy to feel powerful. People who are secure internally don't need to step on others to elevate themselves. They don't use disrespect as a way to remind themselves of their own importance. Instead, they understand that every interaction, no matter how small, is an expression of their inner values. They live with a quiet sense of dignity, and because of that, they extend dignity to others naturally. You will never see them speaking to a waiter as if he is invisible, or treating the cleaning staff like they don't exist. They understand something very profound. Respect is not a reward, it is a standard. In a world obsessed with achievement, status, and visibility, this principle becomes even more important. We often look at someone's resume, their social presence, their achievements, or the roles they play, and we assume that tells us something meaningful about their character. But resumes don't reveal kindness. They don't reveal compassion. They don't reveal how someone treats the people who serve them food or hold doors open for them. True character is built in the shadows, in quiet exchanges, in everyday moments that never make it into a biography. It's also important to understand that this observation isn't about judging others for the sake of judgment. It's about discernment. When you allow someone into your life, into your trust, your time, your emotional world, you are giving them access to your energy. And energy is expensive. You have the right, and in many ways the responsibility, to choose people who operate from integrity rather than convenience. Watching how they treat people who cannot help them is one of the simplest and most accurate ways to protect yourself from those who present well but behave poorly. It also allows you to hold yourself accountable. Because the truth is, we all have moments where impatience creeps in, where stress makes us shorter than we intended, where we forget to be present with the person in front of us. But when you commit to noticing this behavior in others, you also become more aware of it within yourself. You begin to catch the moments where you are about to rush a conversation, or overlook someone's presence, or treat a person as if they were simply part of the background. And this awareness becomes growth, growth becomes habit, and habit becomes character. At the end of the day, the people who treat everyone with respect, whether or not it serves them, are revealing something very powerful. They understand that character isn't something you display. When it's convenient, it's who you are when no one is keeping score. When you want to understand someone's inner architecture, what holds them together, what shapes their decisions, what truly governs their behavior, watch them in moments of pressure. Not the curated pressure people talk about in job interviews, but the kind that arrives unannounced. The kind that disrupts comfort, removes certainty, and forces a person to respond without preparation. Pressure is one of the most reliable psychological X-rays we have. It strips away performance and exposes patterns. It reveals what a person defaults to when they no longer have time, energy, or emotional space to maintain an image. Under pressure, people stop selecting their behavior. They revert to their training, their values, or their impulses. And that distinction matters. A person whose internal world is grounded in patience will still try to communicate calmly, even when overwhelmed. Someone who has practiced empathy will instinctively think about how their actions affect others, even when they're stressed. But when someone's sense of control is tied to their ego, pressure becomes a doorway to frustration, blame, and emotional volatility. The moment they feel threatened or uncertain, the version of themselves they've tried to curate collapses. You've seen this in everyday life. A delayed flight, a mistake on an order, an unexpected inconvenience. These small stressors reveal enormous truths. Some people respond with understanding. Others respond with aggression. Some pause to breathe. Others erupt at the nearest target. And what's important is that the trigger doesn't define them, the reaction does, because reactions reveal conditioning. They show you where a person's emotional development actually is, not where they pretend it is. Philosophers have talked about this for centuries. The Stoics believed that a person's virtues are tested not in moments of calm, but in moments of chaos. Anyone can appear disciplined when nothing is challenging them. Anyone can seem composed when life is predictable. But the minute life becomes inconvenient, the truth steps forward. Pressure reveals who has done the inner work and who has only talked about it. There's also something psychological at play. Stress activates the brain's primal systems: fight, flight, freeze. When someone has done little to regulate their inner world, they become a slave to those impulses. They snap quickly, they blame impulsively, they speak harshly without thinking. Their emotional reactions run faster than their judgment, but a person who has developed emotional maturity creates space between stimulus and response. Even under pressure, they pause, they think, they evaluate. They try to stay aligned with who they want to be, not just who their emotions tell them to be in that moment. This is why observing someone under pressure is essential if you want to know their character. It's not about expecting perfection. No one handles every situation gracefully. It's about noticing patterns. Do they become cruel when stressed? Do they withdraw accountability? Do they rush to anger? Or do they stay grounded, reflective, and responsible? These patterns matter because pressure doesn't create new behavior. It amplifies what's already inside. And this isn't just about how someone treats others. It's also about how they treat themselves in difficult moments. A person who collapses into self-pity whenever something goes wrong may seem harmless, but it shows a lack of resilience. A person who panics at minor disruptions reveals a fragile inner world. Conversely, someone who can make decisions under uncertainty shows strength. Someone who can speak gently even when frustrated shows discipline. Someone who can take responsibility when things don't go as planned shows integrity. Pressure reveals leadership, not the leadership of titles or positions, but the leadership of self-governance. When life becomes unpredictable, some people become smaller, more reactive, more chaotic. Others become more grounded, more focused, more intentional. This contrast is profound because it shows who has built themselves from the inside out and who has only decorated the surface. And just like with the first key point, observing this behavior in others helps you observe it in yourself. Because the truth is, pressure visits everyone. No one is exempt. The question is not whether you will face pressure, but how you will show up when it arrives. And when you start paying attention to your own reactions, your tone, your breathing, your choices, you begin to realize that character is not something you simply have. It's something you practice. It's something you refine through awareness. When you understand that pressure tests you, it also trains you. If you meet it consciously, it becomes one of the greatest tools for your personal evolution. So when you want to know someone's real character, watch them in their unguarded moments when frustration rises, when plans fall apart, when certainty disappears. Because pressure doesn't lie. And the way someone responds to it tells you everything about who they truly are, long before their words ever will. One of the most revealing aspects of a person's character is the distance or the alignment between what they say and what they actually do. Humans have always been skilled talkers. We use words to persuade, to impress, to influence, to shape perception. But words are also the easiest part of us to manipulate. They cost nothing, they require no sacrifice, and they can be adjusted instantly to fit whatever image someone wants to project. Actions, on the other hand, demand effort. They require consistency, discipline, and self-awareness. They expose the truth because you cannot fake behavior with the same ease you can fake language. When someone's words don't match their actions, that gap is not a coincidence, it's a message. It reveals something about their internal structure, their priorities, and their values. People lie most effectively not with their words, but with their behavior. Words show you who someone wants to be, actions show you who they are, and the mind always trusts observable behavior more than spoken intention. This is a psychological principle rooted in something called behavioral integrity, the degree to which a person's actions align with their stated beliefs. When the alignment is strong, trust forms naturally. When the alignment is weak, the relationship, the dynamic, the credibility, everything quietly begins to fracture. Think about the people who promise reliability but repeatedly deliver excuses, or the people who insist they care but disappear whenever you're going through something difficult, or the people who talk endlessly about principles, respect, loyalty, honesty, yet violate those principles the moment they become inconvenient. These contradictions are not random. They reveal a subtle truth. Their values live in their vocabulary, not in their character. On the other hand, a person who consistently aligns action with intention has a presence that feels grounded. They don't need to declare their integrity. You feel it, you witness it, you see it in how they follow through, even when it's uncomfortable. You see it in how they hold themselves accountable, even when it's inconvenient. You see it in how they treat commitments as commitments, not suggestions. They do not rely on performance to earn trust. Their behavior does it for them silently and repeatedly. There is also a philosophical depth to this idea. Virtue is not measured by what we claim to believe. Virtue is measured by what we embody. A person who speaks about compassion but lives with indifference is not compassionate. A person who speaks about humility but seeks constant validation is not humble. A person who speaks about honesty but bends the truth whenever it suits them is not honest. Character is not a declaration, it is a demonstration. This is why watching the alignment between someone's words and actions is essential if you want clarity about who they truly are. It protects you from people who perform morality but do not practice it. It reveals who is consistent versus who is convenient. It helps you identify the individuals who deserve deeper access to your life and those who should remain at a distance. And it's not only about observing others, it's also about observing yourself. When you start paying attention to this principle, you inevitably turn inward. You start noticing your own patterns. Do your actions match the standards you claim to value? Do you treat your commitments seriously, or do you negotiate with yourself when things get difficult? Do you show up when you say you will? Do you follow through on promises made in moments of excitement, but abandoned in moments of effort? This kind of self-examination is uncomfortable, but it's also transformative because the goal isn't perfection, it's honesty. When you become aware of your own inconsistencies, you gain the power to realign them. Alignment builds credibility not just with others, but within yourself. When you repeatedly honor your word, your self-respect grows, your sense of identity strengthens, you become someone you can rely on. And this internal reliability radiates outward. Others begin to rely on you too, not because of what you say, but because of the history of your actions. Trust is not built through declarations, trust is built through patterns. So when you want to understand someone's true character, watch the space between their language and their behavior. That space tells a story. It tells you whether you're dealing with authenticity or performance, integrity or illusion, consistency or convenience. And the truth is simple. Anyone can speak beautifully, but only those anchored in real character can live beautifully.